Hello and welcome to Legislative Report. I'm State Representative Bill Adolph of the 165th Legislative District in Delaware County. On March 21st, the Pennsylvania House of Representatives took an historic first step in getting Pennsylvania out of the liquor business. Poll after poll has shown that this is something that citizens of Pennsylvania overwhelmingly support. Joining me today to explain the details of House Bill 790 is Representative John Taylor of Philadelphia. Representative Taylor serves as the Majority Chairman of the House Liquor Control Committee and has been a longtime friend here in the Pennsylvania House. Welcome, John.
Mr. Chairman, how are you?
Well, John, first of all, I want to congratulate you on such an outstanding job that you did over almost the last 6 months, really. You know, there's times in someone's legislative career that, puts you on the front page of a newspaper, and you certainly did a fantastic job because this was the first time since Prohibition that the Pennsylvania House or State Senate or any governing body ever voted on a liquor bill. And I want to congratulate you, and I know you had a lot of help with it as well. Could you tell the viewers, you know where I live, John, in Delaware County, Springfield, Morton, Marple, and Radnor. So John's not too far away. He's from the Port Richmond section of Philadelphia. And tell our folks back home, John, what House Bill 790 does.
Well, as you noted, Bill, it was 80 years in the making, and this is not something that just happened this term or even last term. I was here during Governor Thornburg's attempt to privatize the liquor business, as well as Governor Ridge's. And we spent extensive time during last term with Representative Turzai's bill. We had hearings at every corner of the Commonwealth. We heard from every stakeholder. And then it became incumbent upon our committee to sit down and kind of work through all this and decide what was, number one, the best policy that we could also pass at a committee and through the full House, and we were successful in doing that. And I guess there's all different segments of the industry that we're taking into account, but most notably, beer distributors in Pennsylvania are under a lot of stress as it is. Tried to make them the focal point of a privatization movement. And with that in mind, we have created the ability for those licenses, those 1,200 licenses in Pennsylvania, to be the starting point for the ability to sell beer, wine, and spirits in one location. So that's one thing we do in this bill. We also create the ability for restaurants and taverns to sell wine. Really, that's a wine-to-go provision where if you wanted to buy 6 bottles of wine in those particular locations, you can do that. And a big piece of this bill is that we allow grocery stores to sell wine across the Commonwealth. Right now, about 160 grocery stores sell beer using an R license. Now they would be able to do that. So we will considerably increase the number of locations that our consumers across Pennsylvania can buy wine and spirits, beer, wine, and spirits, and certainly wine, right, in separate locations.
Yeah, I know the one of the words that I heard an awful lot during the debate was convenience, and that's one thing that Pennsylvania residents have been asking for. How many other states, John, in the nation regulate the wine and spirits?
Well, there's only 2 states, Pennsylvania and Utah, that have complete control. Mm-hmm. But it's a little bit of a misconception that other states aren't heavily involved in the control of alcohol. Some states have control of the spirits, but not wine and beer. Certainly all states can have a regulatory oversight of the selling of this product. But we're way behind the times in Pennsylvania in terms of being able to provide a variety of different stores and just like other states, I mean, your residents as well as mine don't have to go far to see what another state can provide. Sure. But even in New Jersey, there's local restrictions. You don't see beer in a widespread way in convenience stores and grocery stores in New Jersey either. So we're trying to take common sense, slow steps toward improving it without creating chaos in the entire market and trying to do it in a safe way.
let's talk a little bit about the phasing out of, I still call them the state stores, but the wine and spirit stores. I think we have 600 of them in the Commonwealth, do we, John?
Yeah, that number fluctuates on a monthly basis, but about 599 at this moment.
Okay. And what's the bill's plan to phase those out?
Well, assuming we create these private licenses through beer distributors, there'll be 1,200 possibilities. And just to go back to that a second, I mean, it's not just beer distributors, it's the beer distributors' license who then can sell those licenses to other entities. So we think about a third of the current beer distributors will sell those licenses. Mm-hmm. And maybe the other 2/3 will make a run at that, creating a beer, wine, and spirit shop as well. So when those are created, as well as the wine being in restaurants and taverns, as well as wine in grocery stores, we will calculate the number of retail outlets that are private. And once that gets up to double the number of state stores in a given county, we will start to phase out those stores.
I see.
And that could happen at a different pace depending on where you are in Pennsylvania. It's hard for our viewers to understand, our constituents, that in some parts of Pennsylvania there's one liquor store in the whole county.
Right.
So it's different. I mean, some counties have way fewer outlets than us, but with our population, we're certainly looking forward to more. So in the initial stage of this, which everybody should know, both the public stores, meaning the state stores, wine, liquor, and the private stores will be coexisting for a period until the point, under this plan, until the point that the private market is up and running.
Okay. As we sell these wine and spirit licenses, okay, and I think we're going to, the bill costs, it can go up to, 1,200 of them statewide?
1,200 wine, spirit, and beer licenses, yes.
Okay. Where did that figure come from, John? Was that, did your committee study the market to know how many licenses?
It was a combination of factors. As exists today, there's only so many beer distributors that can be in a given environment. Mm-hmm. And the value of those licenses are not really government controlled at this point. So the value in each county can be very different depending on the market. So we took the current value of the license by county and added to it a figure that we thought would meet what the PFA report talked about in terms of the average value of a store in Pennsylvania, which is somewhere in the neighborhood of $188,000.
Okay.
So depending on the county, and oddly enough, between Delaware and Philly, there's a great variation in market. Believe it or not, Philly, you can get a license a lot less expensively than you can in our surrounding counties. But each county by population, we have a range of costs depending on what those licenses are worth.
Okay. Who determins where these wine and spirits and beer places get located? In the southeast, there's a lot of differences within their own county. Springfield, who determines whether Springfield has? Right now, we have one wine and spirit store. Can there be two in Springfield, or could there be none in Upper Darby? And I'm just using Upper Darby as our largest township. Who determines where they're located at?
Yeah, certainly local zoning ordinances will be in existence. We're not exempting
Similar
anything.
to the taverns, I guess.
Very similar to the way it is now. We have restrictions in a bill about closeness to a hospital or to a school and things like that.
Right.
So there won't be any restriction in this bill. But there could be a situation where one section of your county has more licenses than another.
Right.
But the market will dictate the same way the number of grocery stores may vary.
That's right.
And that's like kind of one of the major themes of the entire movement. Why shouldn't the market dictate the same way it does to how many appliance stores or whatever?
Yeah.
A good businessman's going to find an opportunity.
Yeah.
Should there not be anyone in Upper Darby, I'm sure that's So some enterprising young entrepreneur will find a way to do that.
Yeah, I just used Upper Darby because Upper Darby's the largest, and Springfield's like a fourth of Upper Darby. Another question, John. The best case scenario, all the liquor licenses, wine licenses, beer licenses are sold. What type of money would the state receive for all these licenses?
Well, then you're getting, we haven't really talked about the wholesale part of this, but I mean, you're approaching probably in the neighborhood of $800 million at the minimum.
Okay.
We think the wholesale segment of this can be sold at somewhere in around 580 million. And I would think at least 250 million for that when we put all the licenses in play. We think certainly all 1,200 beer distributor licenses will be upgraded, and will have that will reflect in the fees coming into the Commonwealth. We also think that any number, could be 5,000 restaurant and tavern licenses will take advantage of this, as well as the grocery store licenses. So it's hard to say because we don't know how many people will, opt into the system.
Sure.
But in keeping in mind that all our tax structure has stayed the same, for better or worse.
Yes.
We have quite a markup. We have quite a bit of tax on our product now.
Right.
That's very valuable to the Commonwealth. So it's about $422 million a year now in tax. Somewhere in between 80 and 100 million in terms of profit that the stores bring in. So, but we think that sales tax and income tax and things like that will make up for that 80 million.
Yeah, I mean, just the number of licensees, if it goes from say 600 to 1,200, and if the private sector can do a better job, you would think there would be more merchandise sold, okay, and which means more revenue for the state. And you're absolutely correct, John, regarding the profit, and that varied from year to year. Some years the LCB would be 100 million, other years it was down as low as 65 million, and that depending on the type of year that they had. But
well, as you know, from an appropriation standpoint, it's always been baffling how that number's arrived at. I mean,
yes.
It really isn't an accounting procedure. It's the number that the governor's office asks for. And try getting a straight answer, as you often
yes.
have to when
yes.
the Liquor Control Board
yes.
comes in front of you.
Yes.
They send over the money that's been asked for.
Yeah. John, talk a little bit about the wholesale end of it. I don't think a lot of the viewers quite understand the wholesale end of it.
Yes. Well, right now the Commonwealth controls the entire wholesale process. So we are one of the largest buyers of alcohol in all the world, and that's one of the more compelling arguments for why we should keep the system. But it's hard, in our view, in the committee's view, to privatize retail and still allow then the retail to buy from one source. So the complicating part about transitioning into a private wholesale is that suppliers, those that make spirits and wine, have contracts with distributors. And those distributors have the exclusive right to sell that product. And in Pennsylvania, there's really just 2 distributors now, as there is across the country, that control most of that market.
Right.
So 2 distributors control about 84% of the product that goes into the Pennsylvania state store system now. Then there's another 1,000 distributors that control that 16%. So there's a lot of distributors that have just a couple different wines or a couple different spirits. So our proposal really is a little stronger than some, where it gets us out of that wholesale business pretty quickly. And really the way to do that under the contractual arrangements that they have is to have those distributors go in and show the contractual obligations that they're under, and we will price the cost of that distributorship based on the number of clients that they have. We think that 84% will stay intact, obviously. That's where they'll pay per product that they're distributing, and that's where we get to about the 579, 60, somewhere in that neighborhood, $1 million for the cost of distributing that product. We think that'll create more distribution locations throughout the Commonwealth. Right now there's only 3. The private sector will probably expand that. And those distributors will sell to the retailers of wine and spirits no matter where those other things fall, the restaurants, grocery stores.
Okay. John, let's take a quick break, and the legislative report will return in a moment.
Did you know that Act 16 of 1999 honors one of the greatest leaders in the Pennsylvania House of Representatives? The Matthew J. Ryan Legislative Office Building, once known as the Capitol Annex, is located next to the main Capitol building and honors the late Speaker of the House, Matthew J. Ryan. Those who visit this building will observe the magnificent architectural designs providing eloquence and grandeur to the building. Known as one of the greatest members in the history of the Pennsylvania State House, Matthew Ryan started his career in the legislature in 1963 and was elected Speaker in 1981. His charisma and knowledge will forever be reflected in the building now named after this great legislative leader. Now you know.
Did you know that Violet Oakley was the first female artist to receive a large commission for artwork done in a United States Capitol building? In 1902, Joseph Houston, designer and architect for the 3rd Harrisburg Capitol building, commissioned Violet Oakley to paint murals for the governor's reception room. He believed that Oakley's contribution would add interest to the building and act as an encouragement of women of the state. Prior to beginning her work for the Capitol, Oakley set out to England to conduct research for her murals. Upon return, she decided to center her artwork on William Penn and the founding of Pennsylvania. Oakley made sure that Penn's ideals of justice and peace could be seen throughout her work. In 1906, she completed 13 murals titled The Founding of the State of Liberty Spiritual and was placed in sequential order around the governor's reception room. These murals were some of the first to be installed in the Capitol. When Edwin Austin Abbey, another artist for the Capitol, died in 1911, Oakley was offered another opportunity to create murals for the unfinished Senate and Supreme Court chambers. Her work on the Senate murals, including International Understanding, was completed by 1919. Oakley then completed the Supreme Court murals, including the Divine Law, by 1927. Oakley is said to be the principal artist for the Capitol, with a total of 43 murals on display. She remains one of the greatest muralists in the United States. Now you know.
Welcome back to the program. I'm Representative Bill Adolph. My guest today is my good friend, Representative John Taylor, who chairs the House Liquor Control Committee. John, I really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule. And a couple of my constituents have called, and they were concerned about enforcement, okay, underage drinking and so forth and so on. And of course, you know, I stated that, you know, all these other states are able to handle the underage drinking. What have we put in the bill, in the language, to help enforcement?
Well, we're trying to give local police a little more authority to do that. There's kind of a separation now on who enforces the liquor code. We're going to use state troopers as well.
Yes.
But keep in mind that the constituents that are concerned, they should know that we are, in almost the entire case here, using current licensees to expand the sale of this product. So none of these people currently, if they all kept their license, are new business owners who are not used to carding people, making sure they're of age, hours and things like that. So at least they'll have a very, very expensive license that they have to protect. You know, as it'll come, I guess, to your committee to beef up state police and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But we wanted to give more opportunity for other enforcement agencies to enforce the liquor code.
Yeah, that's good. And you know, obviously, you know, our taverns, you know, have been serving beer and alcohol for a long time, and they have that responsibility. So, you know, I think private industry will do a good job because, you know, they certainly don't want their license suspended or paying any fines as well. Is there going to be a yearly fee for these wine and spirit stores, John?
There's renewal fees that are nominal, and some of the, like in the tavern part of that, where they get the ability to sell wine, that startup fee is somewhat nominal. But keeping in mind that they already have the cost of a license, and plus we're limiting the amount that they can sell. So there'll be some recurring revenues into the Commonwealth, but you know, a lot of it will be the upfront money, the real money.
Yeah. Let's get back to convenience. What do you see the consumers? Let's talk a little bit about what you have to do today to get a six-pack of beer and a bottle of wine, and then maybe a bottle of vodka. You have your family coming over for the weekend, and tell the viewers what you have to do here.
Yeah,
in
under that
Pennsylvania
scenario, if you wanted a six-pack of beer, a bottle of wine, and a bottle of vodka, you have to go to at least 2 different places to do that. And you know, you and I just talked off air about how the buying public is much different now. I think in many cases, shopping for alcoholic beverages is a hobby. People enjoy looking at different products. In Philadelphia, for example, we feel that we're one of the beer capitals of the world in terms of the appreciation of beers from all over the world. We have Beer Week that lasts about 10 days in Philadelphia. And people like to shop for wine and spirits, and in many cases, and almost 90% of the time, those stores that we have are very limited in their selection. Some are very nice. We have updated to a premium store, to a very select stores, but that has taken too long. As you recall in the Appropriations Committee, they said that by 2020,
Yes.
all stores may look like some of our premium stores.
Right.
But beer distributors can only sell case beer. Bars and restaurants can only sell 2 six-packs at a time.
Yeah.
So beer distributors want to sell in smaller quantities. Restaurants and taverns want to sell larger amounts of beer. And this bill gives them an opportunity to do that.
Good.
I mean, if I had my druthers, there won't be any restriction. If you had a license, you can sell it any way you want. But there's still certain markets out there that we statutorily created that it's a little unfair to just open it up completely without some restrictions.
Yeah. I'm sure our good friends that own some beer distributors out there, there's some of our neighbors. They live in the community. They hire your neighbors and so forth. But a lot of their business locations, John, is not probably large enough to expand into the wine and liquor business. Now some are, but what's your feeling there, and what type of advantage does that little guy have under this proposal as compared to previous proposals?
Well, the main advantage that a beer distributor will have right now is that they will have the exclusive right to sell beer, wine, and spirits under one roof. Out of everything else we were doing, that license will be only one for one-stop shopping. And that's pretty critical, going back to your question about when you want to run out and you are having some folks over.
Yes.
In other states, you can usually do that in one stop.
Right.
So they will have the exclusive right to do that. We understand there are challenges in terms of the size of their buildings and things. But we also think it's fair to at least give them a crack at it. They're concerned about the grocery store provisions with wine, even though they're the only ones that can sell beer.
Right.
And when you mention the word grocery stores to a beer distributor, that's war. So they're the kind of dilemmas we've dealt with. Every time you make a change in one regard, you're damaging somebody else.
But I know there's grocery stores today that are selling beer. There's a special door, and that you have to go in, and you can only buy beer. You can't mix the beer with the groceries or something like that. And a lot of Wegmans. I know there's a place by me, Drexel Line, a grocer. has a beer license and stuff. So, it's not something new, and they're still going to be able to do that, correct, John?
Yes, so your viewers know how that happens. What those grocery stores are doing is operating under a restaurant license. So either in a real sense or in a perceived sense, they have a restaurant inside the grocery store.
Yeah.
Certainly in Wegmans, they do that. I've
Yeah.
been there. They have a full-blown bar restaurant. And like any tavern can do, they can also sell beer to go. Now they have one of the largest displays of beer anywhere you'll ever find, and because they can sell it by the six-pack, and that's sort of catering to the taste of a beer consumer who wants to try different things.
Okay, so we made this historic vote, and I think there was 105 yes votes. A fantastic job. Where does the bill go from here, and do you have any insight on what's going to happen?
Well, the Senate's has planned some hearings. I think the Senate's going to take this proposal seriously. They're going to have their own hearings. As you know, most of the action over the past 3 years has been on the House side. So we have been the ones engaging in hearings on real bills. Senate's done some of that. So they'll have a hearing on this proposal and others. I think that they'll act on a proposal that they think is right. They'll send it back to us, and I think that could happen as the budget unfolds. We'll have a product to consider that will go to the governor's desk and be a new system in Pennsylvania.
And that's fantastic, and even though the current system, sometimes it's laughable. And I have a good friend from Kentucky. I think you've met over the years, John. And he says when he moved from Kentucky to Philadelphia, and he said that was the most difficult thing he could try to understand is why he had to go to 2 or 3 places in order to get what he needed for the weekend for his family or whatever. And he never heard of a state store. And he said, "What do you mean a state store?" And when the guy said, "Oh, you got to go to a state store." But it is funny, and where we live, we're so used to, we go down the shore on the weekends and so forth, and they have the package stores, and everything's very convenient. You can have a go out to lunch, have a sandwich and a beer, and then go next door to the little package store, buy a bottle of wine for dinner if you're staying home, and it's all about convenience. And I know, John, you're absolutely correct when you're talking about people that have really become wine connoisseurs, and they like to shop because there's big stores right over the state lines down I-95 that people spend 2 or 3 hours shopping for this. Now they're not supposed to, but they tell me they stay down there after they buy.
Well, in this bill, your residents should know, we decriminalized the purchase of alcohol in other states, so no longer it'll be against the law.
Yeah.
Still have a tax issue that you know better about than I, but
yeah.
that they'll have to comply
They call it
with.
the border bleed.
Well, it's a serious item. I mean,
Yeah.
in our community, and my office is about 50 yards from the river. It's not unusual for us to go to New Jersey for any number of things. I don't know that people specifically go across the border just to buy alcohol, but it's certainly easy to do when they get over there.
Oh,
And I
sure.
want my constituents not to be charged with a crime should somebody want to enforce that.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy to consider driving 20 minutes and buying a case of beer a crime. But John, I think you did a great job. We're very proud of what your committee was able to accomplish, and we're not quite sure what the Senate's going to do, what that bill's going to look like when it comes back. But I really believe that the people of Pennsylvania will be happy with when the state finally gets out of the liquor business.
Well, we're certainly going to, and I think no matter what happens in the Senate, we're going to have an opportunity to make it much more convenient for consumers very soon.
Okay. That's all the time we have for today's program. I'm State Representative Bill Adolph. If you need any assistance with any state government matter, please contact me at my local district office. The address and number will be shown shortly. Thanks for watching, and please join me next time for Legislative Report.